Live on YouTube, it says.
Yes, it does. Yep. Okay. Okay, Chair, we're live now.
Right, good morning everyone and welcome to this committee meeting.
Can you speak up, please? Can you speak up?
Check 1, check 2, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that good?
Yeah.
That's
great.
great.
I'm projecting now. Right. Good morning and welcome to People and Culture Committee meeting today on the 10th of December. We are here on Zoom and this is going live out on YouTube as well. So we start off with apologies for absence, and I have Councillors Bromley and Hopkinson. Those are the ones that are noted. We still do await Councillor Johnson and Councillor Khan. We hope they will join us through the course of this meeting. Emergency evacuation procedures are per your own location. Some of you might be in the office. It looks as though a couple of you are, our colleagues. And lucky you, being able to get out of the house and have a space where you can just focus on your work. I think we can, some of us, go into City Hall in Bristol. I don't know about the other locations. There is the opportunity if you practice all, I believe. But there we go. This is where we find ourselves, and I'm here in my kitchen. It's cold, but push on. Declarations of interest. I don't have any advised.
No.
And I don't see any hands. But you are all moving apart from me, so I know that I'm not lagging, which is good. And I hope you can still hear me clearly.
Yes.
Right, I need to now go on and read page 3 of the Zoom guidelines, which I don't have in front of me. I think we all know enough about Zoom now to know what they probably say. And I will continue to make sure that you can hear me. If you can't at any point, do let me know. Right, so then we move on to the minutes. No, actually, sorry, a bit more just to make everyone aware that at 11 o'clock, so in about 20 minutes time, we will be pausing to take a minute's silence at least.
Yes.
To reflect on the tragic incident that happened at Wessex Water. We had fatalities. I think it's really important we take that time. Also reflect that the time we are in now on the 10th of December in 2020. So we will do that at 11. Thank you. We now go to the minutes, agenda item number 5. I've gone through them. I hope other people have had time to have an interesting read. If you're entertained, that's even better, but being able to read them would be good. If you can go and get the minutes and just put them in front of you on your screen, you would find this in Basecamp, and it should be a document under item number 5 in the documents for this meeting. And that's for the 17th of September. Scroll down. It's a little bit annoying because I'd actually edited and highlighted some points I wanted to raise from the meetings. I think it was mainly connected to potential action points, but hopefully we'll have updates on that when we get to the reports. Is everyone happy with the minutes? Has everyone had a chance to? Okay, fine, great. We don't have any public access.
No.
Don't know why, but we don't. Do we need to do more to get public access? Do we need to be sharing more with what we're doing? Perhaps. Who knows? Let's see what happens next year. So we now move on to agenda item 7, which is the DICE audit report. Simon and Richard to present. Do we have an estimated time you need for this presentation update?
Should take now 5 to 10 minutes, Chair. It is a just a raise it to the attention of members. It is a draft audit at this moment in time, and Richard will talk you through that. So it's for members' knowledge and awareness that it is being worked on, hence why it's draft, and it is yet to be presented to the AJEC committee, which will be done in January. So it really is to inform members of this work that is going on within the organisation. So I will hand over to Richard just to brief members and talk you through some of the contents of the audit report and where we are with it at this moment in time.
That's great. Can we just to clarify, what's the deadline for the audit to be completed, and where does it go? Is it internal or does it go to somewhere else?
So I'll allow Richard to talk through that. I know Angie, as a representative for the AJEC committee, from an officer perspective, will also be able to help with that response in terms of timeframes. But it's yet to go to AJEC, which is due on their agenda in January.
Okay, that's great. So over to you, Richard, and if we can try to finish around 10 to 11 to allow any time for questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. So in June this year, we commissioned HR consultancy firm RSM to conduct an advisory review.
Can you speak up, please?
Okay, can you hear me?
That's better.
Is that better? Yeah.
Yep.
So in June 2020, we commissioned the HR consultancy firm RSM to conduct a review of the steps taken by us to ensure diversity and inclusion is embedded into its strategies. The key focus areas were commitment to diversity and inclusion to enhance external profile, effectiveness of the recruitment process, and integrating diversity and inclusion of our culture. Within the audit, there were a number of areas highlighted. First of all, the auditors recognised that this was all under the Equality Act. It was recognised that we were aligned to addressing our public sector equality duties also. And of course, our culture and culture change action plan, and also HMIC FRS action plan. During the audit, a number of staff, including myself, head of HR and other department heads were interviewed, as well as data and reports were also looked at in order to create the summary results. The auditors recognised the significant amount of work that had been undertaken following the culture survey, and highlighted a number of areas that we'd actually progressed quite well on, including publishing the DICE strategy, consulting with staff under the challenges they face, sense checking the policies and processes for tone and language, and reviewing the guidance and updating the bullying and harassment policy in order to adopt a zero tolerance approach. Out of the 52 actions in the culture change action plan, it was noted that 21 were complete, 22 were in progress and on track, and a further 9 were in progress, but were still dealing with unresolved issues. A couple of areas that were particularly highlighted was the website. The auditors noted that, that we needed to update information on our signing up to charters on diversity and inclusion accreditation. I assured that we were signatories of the Bristol Equality Charter, and they advised that we might want to think about investors in people, especially under the We Invest Wellbeing accreditation, which has a particular focus on workforce culture and includes reward recognition and diversity inclusion, which would fit with our culture change program. They also recognised our commitments to ensuring that our Yes You Can campaign, our recruitment campaign on our website, and the progression we've made there, especially around the blogs, personal blogs, and insight into our roles. And I assured them that work was continuing. We were further going to improve the way we advertise our opportunities within the organisation. They advise on further improvements around supporting better data collection in areas such as ethnicity, sexual orientation, and religion and belief. I also assured them that we have reviewed the monitoring, quality monitoring form, and it was just waiting approval from HR, and it will be relaunched early next year. In terms of policy, there was particular focus on action 8.5 of the Culture Change Action Plan, setting up bullying and harassment working group. The auditors noted that there were some grievances, issues relating to on-call stations and management style. And when the working group was formed, this could actually form an initial focus for the group. Another area highlighted was the gender pay gap, gender and ethnicity pay gap. The pay gap of 2.6 noted in 2019, and the increase in that pay gap to 4.8% in 2020 was highlighted, but it was understood that the rise in this pay gap was due to paying 2 male treasurers at the same time, one on sick leave and one on an interim replacement. And if adjustments were made, it would have been reduced to 3.65%. In terms of the ethnicity pay gap, which was a pay gap that we as an organisation took on, despite not having any statutory duty to do that. We did that in terms of a sort of ethical and moral basis. The ethnicity pay gap was actually 8.2%, but it was noted that there was more work needed to be done around this in terms of insights, and also was recognised that it was quite a complex area due to the very small numbers of BME staff in our organisation and our mindfulness around GDPR. There will be further work carrying on with that ethnicity pay gap during next year. The audit also highlighted in the minutes for May 2020 for the People and Culture Committee that there was a lack of scrutiny around those pay gaps and discussion from the authority in terms of those pay gaps identified. However, it was noted that the authority's approach to recruitment would go some way to mitigate issues identified. In terms of our response to the audit, there was 10 actions that were management actions to be considered out of the audit, which myself and my colleagues from other departments, including HR, have gone through. We have given our feedback to RSM in terms of those actions. And the state of play at the moment is that the audit will be sent back to RSM and should only take a couple of days for their response. And as Simon said, it will be going to the AGEC for approval before anything more is done on that.
Right, okay, we're going to have to wind it up a bit now. If there are any other major key points you want to get across, that's fine, but we do all have the report, and you know, many of you may have had a chance to digest, and you may have questions or points. Does anybody have anything they want to raise or any questions for Richard? No, that's fine. I did have a quick question, actually. I think it may have been related to the minutes from the past meeting. It's just come to mind. The service level agreement with SARI. I'm sure I'd noticed that it was, you know, an element of outreach and working with communities, and I'm just wondering how challenging that has been over the last few months, and or what has been done, and what's the plan ahead in terms of community engagement, other than obviously recruitment drives.
Yeah, we continue to work with SARI and meet on a regular basis. As you're right, in terms of community engagement, physical engagement obviously is near impossible. However, what we've been focusing on is recruitment in terms of training our staff here, HR and corporate communications, who are very heavily involved in recruitment. in terms of persona and insights. Also, we've worked with SARI in terms of training senior management in DICE, and they've also been involved in visiting some stations with us in terms of engaging with the community, Western being one of those. So going forward in 2021, if we do see an improvement or a lifting of restrictions, we will be embedding a new set of initiatives to engage with the community there in Western and other areas. So yes, work with SARI still continues in key areas, also in policy, but particularly in training and recruitment.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, maybe next year we can also just have a look at what the plans are for outreach. I know we've got a youth worker as well, haven't we? Another, I believe, within the organisation. Am I right?
A youth worker, not aware of that, Cleo.
No, we haven't, Chair. What we had is we had a firefighter who was on adjustments from his operational role, which we were able to utilise his capacity to reach out to the community. Unfortunately, that firefighter has left the organisation due to ill health, and so we are just in discussions around how we can potentially utilise our existing capacity and workforce to undertake the role as advocates, not just for DICE, but advocates out there within the organisation, within our communities as well. And interestingly, that has been a suggestion from our workforce, which is an extremely positive move as well.
Right, okay, thank you. Any other points anyone like to make? No, is there anything else you'd like to say then, Richard? Because we've got a few minutes, because we'll probably, go into the silence soon.
Yeah, no, I think that the audit came at a good time. I think it was a useful audit. The 10 actions that came out of that audit were really beneficial, certainly in terms of my work, because they highlighted some areas that we were already working on, already aware of, but also sort of highlighted areas that we may have not given enough due consideration on. So I don't think it was has produced extra work or extra onerous tasks. I think it was very useful and also involved other departments that may not have been involved as intensively as before. So it gives us a chance to work more collaboratively across different departments in organisations, including also stations as well. So yeah, it was a very useful audit.
Yeah, thank you, Richard.
Chair, I think Angela wants to come in on that as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Angela.
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly for any members of the public who are listening or watching on YouTube, that as Richard indicated, this is a draft report, but the final report will go into the AJEC committee. Their meeting is on the 25th of January, and therefore the full audit report will be published on our website on or around the 15th of January, should any member of the public be watching want to read about that in more detail.
Thank you very much. Could you also, for our listeners, just break down what that committee stands for, the acronym?
My apologies. Yes, it's the Audit, Governance and Ethics Committee, and they have a delegated role from our FAR authority to look at our audit reports, ensure that management actions in response to those audit reports are appropriate, and then monitor the completion of those audit reports.
That's great, thank you.
Councillor Lake, it's 10:57 now, just to let you know, and Councillor Tucker had a question.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay.
Just to say thank you very much for the report and the work you put into that, Rich. And I was quite encouraged to read about I think, did I read the figure? Correct me if I'm wrong. There were about 800 applications for positions in the one of the agenda items I read last night. And there were quite a lot from minority communities, which was looked as though what you're doing seems to be having some impact. I just wondered if you had just confirm if I'm right there, and what your take is on that.
Yeah, we are obviously continuing to improve the way we advertise our organisation as a employer of choice. We are making real good use of our networks as well. That includes Stepping Up, the HR leadership group, that's headed by the council. That obviously involves all blue light services and other public bodies as well. And I think that again with our community engagement, we are being recognised as an employer of choice. We've obviously got a recruitment coming up in the new year, and so far it shows that we're touching areas of the community we probably wouldn't have touched on before. So I think people are showing more interest in us, and certainly recognising through our website and the work that we do with other groups that we are serious about our quality and diversity.
That's great. Richard, I'm going to have to cut you there again, sorry, because we're approaching 11. I think this may be picked up again in recruitment on our next agenda item as well. But thank you very much for your question, and thank you very much for your report and your discussion on the matter. Thank you, Richard. So let's just centre ourselves, and we come up to the 11 o'clock hour, and we will take quiet reflections and thoughts with the people who have lost their lives and families and the community in Bristol at large. So here we go for our 1 minute to pay our respects. Thank you. We now go to agenda item number 8, and this is the HR and recruitment update to be presented by Alison.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chair. I know you would have all have read the report, and we've just touched on some of it there. I'll just give you the summary and highlights, and then we can discuss anything that you may have further questions on. So this report provides an update on HR activities, including a whole-time firefighter recruitment campaign. As you will know, the recruitment process launched in March this year, and the final interview stage was completed in October. We had a total of 862 eligible candidates that applied, of which 114 were female and 101 were from a BA/ME background. And I know detailed updates have already been provided to the People and Culture Committee in June and September in respect of the diversity statistics at each stage there. The final 16 candidates have now been selected, of which 2 are female and 3 from a BA/ME background, one of whom is Black Caribbean, 1 Eastern European, and 1 who is other mixed background. The training course will start on the 11th of January. In relation to COVID-19, discussions are ongoing currently around implementing risk assessments and undertaking those, and introducing guidance to ensure the safety of all the trainees and the trainers. The HR team do continue to provide support to staff throughout the pandemic. A small number of staff are deemed clinically extremely vulnerable and have been required to shield during the lockdown periods. They are being supported, and their situation is being kept under regular review in light of ever-changing government and medical guidance. Additional welfare support has been provided to staff experiencing physical or mental health issues associated with the pandemic. Fortunately, the service continues to have low numbers of staff self-isolating or off sick due to COVID-19 throughout. And actually, as of today, just 3 members of staff are currently affected in that regard. And then moving beyond that, both long and short-term sickness figures remain at their lowest level for around 9 years, which is obviously very good news, but further analysis is being undertaken to explore the reasons for this. Initial thoughts that this is likely that social distancing, lockdown and limited interaction with others, improved hygiene and other factors related to the pandemic have contributed to this reduction. Thank you. That's the highlight. If anybody has any questions or anything they want to discuss further.
Thank you, Alison. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. Okay. Thank you. So we can move on then to the cultural survey update, which is a verbal update. Again, back to you, Richard.
Thank you. So as you know, that we are going to run the second part of the cultural survey. My current research into suppliers for this survey has come about because the original suppliers, Glasslift, are no longer providing that service. They are now no longer a operating company. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some research on other suppliers. I have now identified 3 suppliers, one of which we had a meeting with on Tuesday, and the next will be on next Thursday, and the third we will need to. I'm still in the arranging stage for a meeting there. I've gone back to the Glasslift as in order to do this second phase of the survey, we need the baseline data which they gathered in the first phase in order to give the suppliers, the new suppliers, in order to be able to conduct this second part. I'm still waiting for the data, but as soon as I get that, I can certainly be able to pass that on to the chosen supplier. So we have 2 more to have a meeting with and decide on who we will give the bid to. Because we are very close to the end of the year, it's unlikely that we will be able to make a decision before sort of the end of year break. But early in January 2021, we will hopefully have identified a new supplier, and then the deadline for the launch of a new survey would begin towards the end of January. So that is what I have so far in terms of our cultural survey update. And obviously during the next People and Culture Committee, I should have a further update on our progression with that.
Thank you. Is everybody happy with that? Do we have any questions or any comments? No? Great. Thank you very much. And next item is Bristol's Public Sector Race Equality Progress Report. Over to you, Simon.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, I thought this would be really helpful to raise this, bring this to your attention. It's a work that has been going on in the Bristol City local authority area. It began back in 2017, and it was a response to the manifesto for race equality. And in response of that, the City Council decided to get public sector organisations together to form a working group to respond to the manifesto and agree a collective range of actions as key employers within the city to be able to work together in collaboration to improve opportunity and tackle elements of racial inequality across the city area. So as a service, we were invited to join that group, and there is a strategic leaders group which was established in 2017, and then a further HR leaders group, which the culture and inclusion manager and also our HR manager are both members of. We saw this as a real positive opportunity to engage and work with our partners across the city, and that has grown significantly in its work stream and resulted in what you see before you. As a group, we very quickly established, I like to say, a strategic action plan around what we wanted to deliver across the city, and probably would be considered the only one of its type nationally, where a race equality data, HR data product report. What you see in front of you is the report from 2019, which is a second report, the first one being published in 2018, and as I've said, was one of the first of its kind, where all public sectors came together in one report to look at the workforce profile, and so that we can identify, share best practice, and see where we can improve the workforce profile, in particular around race inequality and representation across our organisations. I'm pleased to say that in 2018, it did receive a global recognition and a global award for the Equality and Diversity Awards. Since then, as a strategic leaders group and the City Council, have been contacted by many other local authorities, both here in the UK and also internationally, around the work that's been undertaken, citing as good practice from there. We then, as a group, decided to look at these figures and then develop, as I said there, an action plan. And on page 30 of your Appendix A, which is the HR data set from 2019, you can see the statistics there and workforce profile from our own service, and how we if you like, compare with our other partners. That certainly helps us identify and work with other partners around the best practice that they've achieved in some of their workforce profile. That also then developed our service level agreement with SARI, in particular around focusing on how they can also support us as an organisation in engaging with our communities to, as Richard mentioned earlier on, to raise our profile and become an employer of choice or a go-to employer from our BAME communities across the city area. As a result of the action plan, you can see in Appendix 2, which is the Leaders Group midterm report, and on page 7 and page 8 of the appendix, within there you can see our own organisation objectives, how we contributed to that report, the work that we are going to do to tackle racial inequality and contribute towards the outcome of the manifesto, Race Equality's manifesto. And within there, the midterm report also then identifies what so far the work that we have been undertaking in order to try and meet those 3 intended priorities, or our outlined priorities as a service. A lot of it is focusing around recruitment in the first instance, and previous papers have given members an indication of the work that we've been undertaking in that regard. In regards to how we have published this, we've published this both internally using our intranet. We have a draft press release that we're currently working with Bristol City Council to do a joint press release. We've also shared that across the organisation through our bulletin and also our internal workplace networks and external Facebook as well. So I'll pause there, members. A lot of information there for you to absorb, but like I say, I thought it was very helpful to raise this to your attention of the work that's been undertaken collaboratively with other partners and also by colleagues across the organisation as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and really encouraging report there. Do we have any questions or comments, any notes? Brenda?
Thank you, Chair. I found the document really, really interesting. I was reading it last night and again this morning, and there's some real food for thought in there. Going to the one you've just been referencing, Simon, there's the issue about women and their strength and fitness for applying for firefighting jobs. And that is a big thing for us to get over. Have we got any ways around that?
Yeah, so some of the things that we've been looking at is workshops, specifically for female applicants, so that we can work with them. Our service fitness advisors runs workshops, so that we pre-application we can give them fitness programs, give them advice and support how they can prepare for the fitness element, and it is really around the strength tests where we find a disproportionate reduction, if you like, of representation from our applicants in our recruitment process. So very much some upfront investment, how we can engage with our communities, but it does require obviously that two-way engagement and that desire to take up the work programme really to improve their strength and their fitness overall.
Thank you. Can I just do a follow-up as well about the comment about contacting women and BME candidates who were unsuccessful previously? How well did that work?
So that's around how we can further support them, what areas they find, so we can try to improve our recruitment processes, understand lessons learned, understand barriers that may exist that we can explore further for their success really. So we engage, get their feedback, and also to see whether or not we can support them through some positive action in preparation for future applications.
Thank you, that's fine.
Thank you. Right, okay, great. So we'll move on. And this is amended People and Culture Committee terms of reference. And I believe, are we going over to you, Amanda, for this?
Yes, sorry, I was having problems unmuting. Yes, Chair, that's me. Members, I have been involved with the Constitution Working Group, who have met a couple of times to look at amendments to the Constitution and the terms of reference for committees. And that I think we all regard the Constitution as a living document which regularly needs revision. So that's why that's been happening. As part of that review, it was identified that there were a couple of amendments required to the Audit, Governance and Ethics Committee, TORs. And they are more procedural amendments, if you like. So it confirms, for example, elements of standing orders which apply to the committee, so that you would expect reports to be presented to committee members in advance of meetings 5 days before, and verbal reports to be only made on exception. And Richard's verbal report today is a good example of that. There was no tangible update because the company that we wanted to engage was no longer in business, and that's why we're back to looking for new providers. So I've been through the TORs for the other committees, this committee included, and I have suggested at the Appendix 1 a number of track changes which are very minor. They just correct a couple of presentational issues. They correct the description of the Equality Act, which for some reason was called the Equalities Act, which was wrong, and adds a new section at the end called Agendas and Reports, which deals with the matter I've just discussed about having the reports in advance of meetings. I have to report something which I haven't already mentioned to the chair. Angie, with her eagle eye, spotted that the Word version that I put my track changes onto was missing a really important bullet point under the functions of the committee. So I will need to add that back in. I don't know how it disappeared. So the final function of the full committee is to determine the outcome of all applications and cases for ill health retirements, which I know we will be doing later today. So that bullet point needs to be inserted back into the document. I don't understand why that disappeared. And then as a panel, your fourth bullet point down is to determine issues arising in relation to the payment of sick pay. That's for principal and statutory officers. So those words will need to be added back in as well. But subject to those two additions, I'm asking the members today, one, to confirm whether they are happy with these proposed track changes, but also two, to use this as an opportunity to look at the TORs as a whole and make any other suggestions that you think we should be considering for amendment to the TORs. So Chair, if you'd like to see if you could get some feedback from members.
Certainly, thank you. Brenda, you've got your hand up. Is there anyone else who knows they might want to speak? No?
Simon.
Simon. Okay, well, let's go with you first, Brenda.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I found this working group was really useful to review where we have got to with changes to committees, because committees evolve over time, legislation evolves as well. And I think it's really important that we do this exercise again every couple of years, just to make sure we've captured everything we need to in here. It's as I said, it's been really useful and very helpful to make you actually sit down and read through the terms of reference, which is not something you necessarily do on a regular basis. But I think it's been very valuable, and I'm very happy with the outcome we've had from it.
That's great, thank you. Simon.
Thank you, Chair. As a suggestion from myself for members is perhaps some consideration around the inclusion and reference to the public sector duties and our responsibility as an organisation to comply with the Public Sector Duty Act as well, in particular with regards to fostering good relations with our communities and each other as employees and colleagues. So as a suggestion, and maybe a further suggestion where we do report to the committee with regards to the gender pay gap, which is a legislative responsibility for ourselves. So that may be something else to include within the terms of reference for members to consider. Thank you, Chair. Thank
you. Amanda and I did have a brief chat, and I'm happy with the terms of reference and everything. I also did mention that, a lot of the work and the shape of it is guided by, our duties under the Equality Act. And I did consider whether at some point we want to go wider than that. And I know, Amanda, you were going to at some point look into if there's any other way of benchmarking that takes us a little further. I was considering in relation to things like social mobility, class, and those kind of things that aren't expressly mentioned or covered by the Equality Act. So I'm just putting that there, and maybe Amanda will come back, and if anyone else has any other thoughts on that, be welcomed.
Thank you, Chair. I did discuss this with Simon earlier, and that's why I think we feel the public sector equality duty would certainly be something that is worthy of mention in the purpose of this committee. I haven't managed to find any, what we've got to find is something which is specific enough, which sets out their aims and whether we think that's something that the committee should bear in mind. So I think at this stage, that would just be my recommendation. If I come across anything else that I think is relevant, I will of course let you know. There is also in the background a conversation going on as part of the working group work about the role of this committee in relation to ill health retirements. And I know I and Angie have been asked to review from start to end how that works and whether it's the best way to make that work, so that people get timely responses, for example. So it may be that we will need to come back to this committee and again, once we've had that review of that particular process, to make any other recommendations for changes to the TORs. But at this stage, I think we just need to ensure the bullet point is in there saying that you determine IHR applications. And if we need to expand upon that, we can do that in due course. We want to get all the final amendments to the Constitution, including the TORs, hopefully wrapped up for this year by the end of the financial year, so that it can then be properly republished, and then we start, the process again as necessary.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that answer. And I think it was good for Simon to update us on the public sector aspect as well, which does go some way to responding to what I asked. And I think that's a great step forward, and that's great. Of course, we know we have our targets and things like that and our priorities at the moment, but it's also good to consider these other things. Great. So if we have no further comments, let's also welcome Councillor Johnson to the meeting. Hopefully you can hear us okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have an alternative Zoom link which wasn't opening, but I'm here now. Sorry about that, Cleo.
That's fine. I also had that issue. So
oh, okay.
Glad you were able to join us here, though, although we now are on to...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before we leave paper 11, can I just ask the committee then to confirm that they approve, under the 2 recommendations, the track changes made to the TORs, subject to those 2 additions I've just mentioned. And then in relation to recommendation B, propose any additional changes, can I take it please, and can the members confirm that they are happy for me to insert public sector equality duty in addition to the Equality Act under the purpose section of the TORs?
Thank you. Yeah, if we could just raise our hands if we agree to all of those. My hand is raised. That's the majority of us then, so that is agreed. Thank you. Right, so moving along, the date of the next meeting is the 4th of March 2021. Put that in all of your different calendars and diaries and devices and old school diaries and all the rest of it, pen and paper. And see also if you've already got, you may already have actually, I don't know, the link from Emma. We may have had that way in advance. And you can obviously accept that, and it should go into your calendar then, which it did, but it still wasn't the right link for me today. But nevertheless, you can still go ahead and do it. But I would also advise that on the morning of the next meeting, the link is also sent out again, just to try to mitigate any problems. Thank you.
Emma, I'll get you to just double check the links are correct for next year, just make sure, because we obviously had a few hitches this time. So we'll just double check and make sure everything's as it should.
Many thanks. Right, so we now go to agenda item 13, where I believe we stopped streaming on YouTube. So I can put my camera back on because I haven't brushed my hair. I'm only joking. We turn off our live stream because we are going to exclude the press and the public for this agenda item. And I will just resolve that, or we will resolve that the meeting be excluded from the public be excluded from the meeting during the following items of business on the grounds that they contained exempt information pursuant to Schedule 12A Part 1, Paragraph 1 and 3 of the Local Government Act 1972, and that in accordance with Schedule 12A Part 2, Paragraph 10 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. It sounds a bit more exciting than it probably is, but there we go. We're going to use our brains and we will be back on the other side. No, we won't. So we'll say goodbye now.